Good day, my name is Joanne Bernadine Bolivar, and I'm going to discuss with you all about psycholinguistics. Psycholinguistics, what happens in our mind when we use the language. Psycholinguistics, or the psychology of language, is the study of the psychological and neurobiological factors that enables humans to acquire, use, and understand language. Neurolinguistics is an old term for psycholinguistics. It is the study of neural mechanism in the human brain that controls acquisition, production, and comprehension. It is a branch of study which combines the disciplines of psychology and linguistics. It is concerned with the relationship between the human mind and the language, as it examines the processes that occur in brain while producing and perceiving both written and spoken discourse. According to Noam Chomsky, all humans possess a special innate ability for language. All the humans have ability to learn language. LAD is fixed in human mind. There are three primary processes investigated in psycholinguistics: the language comprehension, language production, and language acquisition. The language comprehension, it is understanding what other people say and write. It involves a variety of skills and processes and dispositions that are used to derive meaning from spoken, written, and signed language. It develops along with the brain and is able to be enhanced with the use of gesture. Gestures are useful for understanding the language around us. Sound comprehension. Comprehension is strongly influenced by even the slightest of changes in discourse which the listener is assenting to. The p is the following words is produced slightly different. The initial p of pool, pronounced with puckered lips, but the same p in pale as spoken with the lips spread. Word comprehension. The word comprehension means understanding. When you lack comprehension of a difficult word, you will likely need to look up its definition and usage in a cold, down-to-earth online dictionary. Comprehension actually comes from the Latin term which means assizing. There are three theories representing the meaning of word comprehension: the reference theory, the prototype theory, and the decomposition theory. Reference theory, which equates a word's meaning with what the word refers to in the world. For example, the noun drawer is identified with a sliding box-shaped part of a piece of furniture used for storage. Prototype theory assumes that a word's meaning can be derived from a bundle of features, no one of which is individually either necessary or sufficient. Decomposition theory, which holds that the meaning of an utterance can be derived if the latter is broken down in its component semantic features. Sentence comprehension is known as difficult for orally trained individual with hearing impairment. It has to deal with ambiguity in spoken and written utterance. Language production is the production of spoken or written language. It describes all the stages between having a concept and translating that concept into linguistic form. Stages of production. The basic loop occurring in the creation of language consists of the following stages: intended message, encode message into linguistic form, encode linguistic form into speech, sound goes from speaker's mouth to hearer's ear, speech is decoded into linguistic form is decoded into meaning. Speech production. It concerns with how people produce language in his or her mind to convey their meanings that are comprehensible to others, either in its written form or spoken form. Basically, it refers to how humans use words to communicate ideas and feelings and how such communications are understood. In simple wording, it is how the brain creates and understands language. The sub-levels of speech production: conceptualization, formulation, articulation, and self-monitoring. Conceptualization. This is what we wish to communicate. For example, people who are coming from different cultures but using same language, like English. We have to notice that how clearly do they say and what they mean. Formulation. Formulation is the eventual output of speech conceptualization. Gestures plays a functional role in formulation of speech. Long-term memory resources are thought to be necessary for conceptualization, and verbal working memory resources are thought necessary for formulation. Articulation. Articulation concerned with sounds in speech production, when, where, and how sounds are articulate in the mouth and vocals of a human. It includes place of articulation and manner of articulation. Self-monitoring. Production process sometimes goes away and speaker will verbally misstep, especially with regular or more unusual form. For example, the last I knew about it, it had left Vancouver. She was so drunk, drunk, that we decided to drive her home. Mistakes are production problems. They have the trouble you have with your linguistic printer, not with the original software. Errors are committed by non-native speaker. Language acquisition. It is the process by which humans acquire the capacity to perceive and comprehend language, as well as to produce and use words and sentences to communicate. Language acquisition usually refers to first language acquisition, which studies infants' acquisition in their native language. Two basic notions in first language acquisition: overgeneralization and undergeneralization. What is overgeneralization? It is the extension of rule beyond its proper limits. It is a frequent phenomenon in language development. It can be found not only in syntactic usage but also in word meaning. For example, moon, all round objects; cars, all vehicles; dogs, all four-legged animals. What is undergeneralization? It is when a child uses a word in a more limited way than adults. This phenomenon is known as generalization. For example, shoes only refers to his mother's shoes. Reasons for overgeneralization and undergeneralization. On some occasions, children's conceptual categories differ from adults. They may know perfectly well that a cow is not a dog, but not know what is called. On other occasions, the children's misuse of words may reflect an attempt at humor. This is distinguished from second language acquisition, which deals with the acquisition in both children and adults of additional languages. Language acquisition is just one strand of psycholinguistics, which is all about how people learn to speak and mental processes involved. Theories of second language acquisition. The universal grammar. Chomsky describes the theory as knowledge that people are born with it, basically skills some language people already have without being taught. The monitory theory. The point of this theory is to note the differences between the acquisition and the learning. Acquisition is hypothesized to occur in a manner similar to the first language acquisition. Learning is described as a conscious process, one in which the learner's attention is directed to the rules and forms of the language. Behaviorism. It dominated psychology and education theories of second language learning and teaching. Behaviorism is based on the view that all learning, including language learning, occurs through a process of imitation, practice, reinforcement, and habit formation. Cognitive. Psychologists hypothesize that second language acquisition, like other learning, requires the learner's attention and effort. Some theories suggested that language is first acquired through intentional learning of what is called declarative knowledge, and that the declarative knowledge can be procedural knowledge. The integrationist perspectives. This theory explains the ongoing use of language and gestures in anticipation of how the other will react in the conversation. It's not only the speaker's reactions but also the listener's. Instruction and second language acquisition. Research shows that instruction can have a significant effect on second language acquisition, at least in terms of the rate of learning and the long-term success that the learner achieved in using the language accurately. In the context of communicative interactions, learners seem to be able to benefit more from instructions and errors feedback, which focus on the semantic or lexical errors than from which target syntactic errors. Factors. Individual factors such as age, personality, motivation, experiences, and cognition. Age. Second language acquisition is influenced by the age of the learner. Children with solid literacy skills in their own language seem to be in the best position to acquire a new language. Personality. Introverted or anxious learners usually make slower progress, particularly in the development of oral skills. They are less likely to have opportunities to speak. They will take risks and thus will give more practice. Experiences. Learners who have acquired a general knowledge and experience are in a stronger position to develop a new language than those who haven't. Motivation. Intrinsic motivation refers to the motivation that comes from inside the individual rather than from any external or outside rewards such as money or grades. Extrinsic motivation refers to motivation that comes from outside an individual. The motivating factors are external, such as money and grades. Cognition. In general, it seems that students with greater cognitive abilities will make the faster progress. Some linguists believe that there is specific innate language learning ability that is stronger in some students than the others. Affective factors. Affective factors are emotional factors which influence learning, such as self-esteem, inhibition, risk-taking, anxiety, and empathy. Comparison between the first and second language acquisition. Similarities. In both first and second language acquisition, there are predictable stages and particular structures are acquired in set order. Individuals may move more slowly or quickly through the stages, but they cannot skip ahead. For example, a learner may start using the correct form of an irregular verb as part of a language chunk, but later overgeneralize and place a regular affix with the same verb. In both first and second language acquisition, the learner uses context clues, prior knowledge, and interaction to comprehend the language. Age is important for variable affecting proficiency. Differences. In first language acquisition, children spend several years listening language, bubbling, and using telegraphic speech before they can form sentences. But in second language acquisition in older learners, learning is more rapid and people are able to form sentences with a shorter period of time. In second language learning in older learners are able to use more metacognitive processes in the learning. They can consciously analyze and manipulate grammatical structures and they can describe how language works. This can speed the learning process. In second language learning in older learners are bringing more life experience and background knowledge to their learning. They have more schemata and more learning strategies to help them learn the second language. Almost everyone acquires a first language, but not everyone acquires a second language. Acquiring a first language happens naturally, while acquiring a second language often requires conscious effort on the part of the learner. And that ends my report. Thank you for your time. Now let me end my presentation with this quote by B.F. Skinner. Nurture is the reason for the way we learn language, not nature.